Hello there and welcome to Dirt Road Believer. I am Tina and we are in a giveaway right now. If you want to be in on the full giveaway, then you need to go back to last week's devotion, because the way this works is every single week I'm adding to our Christmas stocking, stuffing it full of my favorite things. And once it's full at the end of November, I am going to announce the winner December the 2nd and get that mailed to you. Because I'm mailing it, I need you to be in the continental United States to enter to win. But you can enter, it's so simple. All you have to do is comment on the video. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Dirt Road Believer Facebook, where I post all of my videos each week. So get in on this. Every time you comment, that is a time that you get entered to win. So you can, up to 4 entries you can have in our drawing on December 2nd. I'm so excited. Last week we gave away a couple of my favorite things from the kitchen. So now we're going to transition into the living room and share a few of my favorite things that I enjoy, especially during the holidays, in there. I have my chair that I sit in where I do all my devotions, and it's just, it's my chair. So it's like, Sheldon, don't sit in my chair. All right, let's start with this. This is the best holiday scent that I have found. It carries you all the way through the winter months, and it is the Airwick air freshener, and it's going to include two of the scents that you put in there, the essential oils. And this scent, oh my gosh, it's my favorite. It's fresh pine and juniper. It has that wintry, clean smell, and I just love it. So you can plug this in your living room and just make the whole house smell wonderful. And it lasts for several months, so that'll last you probably 5 or 6 months. Then also, when I get in my comfy, cozy chair, I like to wear fuzzy socks, turn on the fire, look at the Christmas tree and have on my fuzzy socks. Now, as I said, these gifts are good for men or women. So men, these will fit you too, but these are the double layer cozy socks that are aloe infused, so you can treat your winter feet while you're wearing them. And then something homemade. I always love getting homemade gifts. This gift brings back such a strong memory for me as a child. My grandmother, Martha, lived next door to us, and she always kept this on hand. This is her Russian tea mix, and it kind of looks like, the sand art, but it is a delicious blend that makes the best tea. Now, the people that I've given this to, they say, oh, it tastes so good. There is one woman that swears it helps her fall asleep. She drinks it before bed. But you are going to love the taste. My grandmother, if you spent the night with my grandmother and you were one of her grandchildren, you got breakfast in bed each day or each morning, and it always included her Russian tea. So I'm going to share the recipe with you. So now you have my grandmother's Russian tea mix recipe, but you're going to get a jar of this along with my favorite things, because there's just something special about a cup of her hot tea. It brings back such wonderful memories, as this time of year should. So, okay, so this week, let's recap. You are entering to win all the things in the stocking from each week in November. But this week, I took you to the living room where I enjoy my Airwick air freshener, my cozy socks where I like to prop my feet up on my ottoman, and my grandmother's Russian tea mix. All right, now that we've gotten past our giveaway for today, hope you're entering to win each week. Let's get to our do's and don'ts of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is rapidly approaching. We can tell by the beautiful trees behind me that are changing color. It's that time of year, and before we know it, we will be either going to someone else's house for Thanksgiving, or we'll be having guests over to our own house. We've kind of had a tradition the past, 4 or 5 years where we are hosting Thanksgiving now. So we're really looking forward to having our family and friends over to celebrate this Thanksgiving and all the yummy food. And I've already started decorating and putting out my pumpkins and acorns and, candles and all that good stuff. So we were in the book of Esther last week. We're going to be in the book of Esther again today. And we're talking about Thanksgiving do's and don'ts, okay? And today we're going to be talking about a specific word called ambush. Ambush is an unexpected, unwanted advance from someone. It's used a lot in grief counseling. So when someone has lost someone close to them, everybody wants to do something, and we want to, for good reasons, kind of impose ourselves and, take things over, or, kind of be in their space, or, invite them out thinking that will help. And oftentimes that is an ambush to the person who is grieving. They're not expecting it. They're not ready to handle it, but they're not really sure how to handle it with tact. So ambushes can also be a part of the holidays. How many times have you thought in your head before a holiday, hey, this is the only time I'm going to get to see this family member, and I've got a concentrated amount of time, and I really need to address this. And you choose the holidays to do that, and it doesn't always turn out like you expected, because most likely it's an ambush. And like I said, ambushes can happen for really good reasons and good intentions, but when they are unexpected and unwelcome, it can present problems. So we're going to see two ambushes today in Esther, and one is handled a lot more delicately than the other. So what am I talking about here? Let's go to Esther. All right, in the book of Esther, we're going to be in chapter 5, and this is Esther's ambush or approach to the king. As we know, Esther has learned that Haman has this plot against the Jews, and he is just fixing to mow down all the Jews because he's mad at Esther's uncle/adoptive father, Mordecai. So he has gotten the king to absentmindedly sign off on this edict that is about to wipe out the Jews. And so Esther, Queen Esther, is going to approach the king. However, she knows that approaching the king, if it's unwanted and unexpected, can mean, sudden death for her. So let's start in chapter 5. On the third day, Esther dressed in her royal clothing and stood in the inner courtyard of the palace, facing it. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the royal courtroom, facing its entrance. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the royal courtyard, she gained favor in his eyes. We're going to come back to that. The king extended the gold scepter in his hand toward Esther, and she approached and touched the tip of the scepter. The king says, "What is it, Queen Esther? Whatever you want, I'll give to you, up to half of my kingdom." And so Esther says, "If it pleases the king, may the king and Haman come today to the banquet I have prepared for them." The king said, "Hurry and get Haman, and we will do as Esther requested." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. While drinking the wine, the king asked Esther, "Whatever you ask, it will be given to you. Whatever you want, up to half of my kingdom, it will be done." And Esther answered, "This is my petition and my request. If I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and it pleases the king to grant my petition and perform my request." And then she goes on with her request. Okay. Esther, with great caution and sensitivity, approaches the king about a matter that must be discussed. It is, the time is of the essence here. It has to be done. But she knows that this could come on as an ambush. And so what does she do? She enters and she says, if I have found favor, if this is a good time, I really need to ask you something. And then she says the same thing again before she gives her talk. Hey, look, if I have found favor in your eyes and if it pleases you. This is the way to approach someone, especially at the holidays. I am so guilty of this, like, because it's good, in my eyes, it's good, it's urgent, and it'll make me feel better. That's why I ambush people. And I know when I have concentrated amount of times with people, that's a loud acorn over there falling. When I have concentrated amount of times, you know, vacation, holidays, birthdays, you know, I have to get it all in, and it makes me feel better. But later when I step back, it was not the right timing. It was not the right place. It was not the right event to bring up such a thing. Okay. This is what Esther is sensitive to. She knows that it's urgent, but she also knows that this can be perceived as something unwanted by the king. So she's very, very cautious, very sensitive when it comes to the king's timing. Is this okay with the king before I proceed? So if it's something that really needs to be addressed, and Thanksgiving or Christmas is the only time to do it, take a note from Queen Esther, okay? Don't just, but get into it and, you know, judge, is this a good time? Before you just blurt it out, and then the whole dynamics of your holiday are in jeopardy, okay? And things don't go so well after that. All right, now let's look at a don't. So Esther handled that well, right? Now let's look at a don't. We're going to go to chapter 7 for this. Subtitle is Haman is executed, so that's not good. But now we're at this banquet, and notice something else Queen Esther did. She sort of, you know, softened the blow. She had a banquet prepared. Like, let's set aside a time to discuss this. That was another positive that was in her favor. All right, so now we're at this banquet that she's prepared for the king and Haman, and she lays it out. You know, when the timing is right, she lays it out before the king and says, my people have been sold to destruction and death and extermination. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have been quiet about it. But indeed, the trouble wouldn't be worth burdening you. So the king asks, who is this, and where is the one who has devised such a scheme? And Esther answered, the advisory and enemy is this evil King Haman. He's sitting right there. Haman is terrified before the king and the queen. The king also, you know, does a good thing here. He doesn't just, you know, reach across the table and strangle him. He gets up in his anger, and he's going to walk out and try to process this. The king arose in his anger and went from where they were drinking wine to the palace garden. Haman remained to beg Queen Esther for his life because she realized the king was planning something terrible for him. Just as the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was reclining, and the king exclaimed, would he actually violate the queen while I'm in the house? As soon as the statement left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face, and he was taken to the gallows that Haman actually built for Mordecai, and they hanged him. So here we have another urgent situation, right? Haman's life is in the balance, but he does not handle it at all like he should. The result may still have been the same even if he had handled it well, but he went to a swift death because he ambushed the queen in the most, like, unwanted way, right? She is there enjoying a meal, having a glass of wine. She was reclined on the couch, and he just literally gets on her and starts smothering her. And to the king's eye, it looked like she was being molested. I mean, he was that ambushy. So that's like the worst example of an ambush. Unwanted, unexpected, panicky, you know. So when we're having the holidays, don't get panicky, the things that you think I just absolutely must address with family members. Don't come across that way. Take time, judge, is this timing good? Ask, hey, is it okay to proceed and talk about this? But ambushing is a bad, bad, bad thing. It just ruins a dinner party, as you can tell by Haman here. All right, another ambush that is common with Christians. Guilty, okay? It is ambushing people with the gospel. I know in my heart that I need to get in everybody's face and tell them about the gospel and why they need it, right? This is not scriptural, even though it is my tendency, especially with those that I love, that, oh my gosh, I just have to share the gospel with you. But if it is unexpected and or unwanted, then scripture says no. It has to be received, and received in the right timing. And I just want to share with you in 1 Thessalonians. This is 1 Thessalonians 2, 7 and 8. Although we could have been a burden as Christ's apostles, instead we were gentle among you, as a nurse nurtures her own children. We cared so much for you that we were pleased to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives, because you had become dear to us. I really like this scripture because it addresses, treating people not based on whether they're Christians or not, but people becoming dear to you just because, they're dear to you. They're God's creation. You can grow to love and appreciate and respect people even when they are not Christians. But the whole point is that you are, as the scripture said, that you are like a nurse to them who nurtures her own children. And your life is the biggest testimony to them, that we treat the gospel with gentleness when we're sharing it with others, and not ambush people with, I'm right or you're wrong because, I am a Christian. When we come across that way, we turn people off. We make people mad. We turn things upside down that didn't have to be. It's an ambush. So can you ambush people with the gospel? Yes. Why do you think we have church? So that people can come to church, But then we are also called, when we leave the church building, to go out and to spread the gospel. But we do have to be careful, and this is what I'm ending on today. We do have to be careful that our approach to sharing the gospel is not an ambush. That if we were not permitted to say a word to anyone else, that they have seen the gospel at play because they have seen us and how we live and how we treat each other. And may people, even outside the Christian faith, become so dear to us that we live in such a way that we promote the gospel of Christ, that we treat them as a mother who nurtures her own children, that we're encouragers and nurturers in the faith. All right, that's all I have for today. I'm really excited about this giveaway. I hope I see lots of entries this week. Remember, you can comment. It doesn't matter what you comment. ! Dirt Red Believer, I love Jesus. It doesn't matter. But just comment either here or on Dirt Red Believer Facebook group to this video, and you will be entered to win. Remember, you can enter as many as 4 times, because we're going to have 4 weeks where I'm showing you things that I'm going to stuff your stocking with and mail it to you after December 2nd when I draw a winner. Guys, I hope you have an amazing Tuesday or whatever day it is that you're watching this. I hope you enjoy these beautiful fall leaves this time of year as you gear up for Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you back here next week. Until then, slow down. Take the dirt road, believer.